Hey, Army VIPs, it's your buddy Choppadong, and we are going to do a continuation of the wide receivers and tight ends and STDs if we can. Get this done in two videos when it comes to the Week 11 NFL Rundown. Really and truly, thanks again for the support and telling me how much you guys like these videos and how much they help. Hopefully, you're scrolling back through the channel and finding the things like we did Research Lab yesterday. We've done this, it's only the last 2 or 3 days, and then it gets deleted, and I have to go through YouTube manually and sift all these things out because to keep them away from the public, I have to leave them as unlisted videos, which means unless I bookmark it myself, I don't even, I don't even keep them myself. So I don't mind making them as often as we need to have them made. They're kind of fun, and it's a fun way to talk to you guys. But just know that if you're missing stuff or you want to see stuff, you've got to scroll back through and kind of catch it, maybe save it for later. You can probably bookmark them yourself and probably have access to them forever. They're not truly premium videos. They're just hidden from the public so they can't search for them and find them because you guys obviously are paying for a service and you guys deserve the best. So going forward, we'll dive into the research station, do a little bit of wide receivers and whatnot. And remember, if you haven't already, that the little glitchy thing in the actual research station where that thing flashes means you need to come down here to this little area and click that little Windows pop-out box, and then it works just like normal when you kick over to the other window. So when we dive into the wide receiver matchup tab, and always what we do first is kick these. Damn, I hate when I misclick. Golly, don't you hate that? Now I probably have to do this manually. I probably can't even use the control button to do it. I have to until I get out of that box that's highlighted. I can't really do much. It's a funny little thing, but the more you play with these things, the more you start figuring this crap out on your own, and it is what it is. It just becomes a mild pain in the butt. Wide receivers, we're looking for. Remember the two magic numbers. Obviously, we want targets and we want red zone targets and all of that good stuff. And the higher the volume, the better. The more times you throw the ball at me, the more likely I am to catch it multiple times. It's like I could go 0 for 10. I could go 1 for 1 for 102 yards and score. I mean, I get that, but as a general rule, when it comes to volume, targets are king in wide receiver land, and that's what we want to see, especially down closer to the end zone where it leads to scores. That way, I don't have to break that 45-yard big play off. I can just get the little 8-yard touchdown score or whatever. That's where it really, really helps over time. Any given week, these guys dud. They are more volatile than running backs because, as I've said several times before, running backs touch the ball 15 to 20 times a game. They get more opportunity. Yeah, a lot of 3-yard carries, but they get more opportunity to break one. And when you only touch the ball 6 to 8 times a game, and that's targeted, that's not even catching or touching. Some of these balls are uncatchable, obviously, and it goes down as a target because it was thrown at you. But you just don't get a lot of opportunity to score. So when you don't get that, it's like I don't know, a 3-point shooter that sits in the corner. You want the guy raining threes all day long, shooting 20, 30 times a game rather than shooting 8 times a game. Because, yes, he can go 8 for 8 and he can go 0 for 24. And then somebody can laugh at you and go, neener, neener, I was right with this pick, but you really weren't because you kind of banked on a stupid player at low volume rather than a smarter, safer player at high volume in cash games. In GPPs, take the risk. Do it. Jump in, take the risk. But we're looking at targets and volume and stuff. But the magic number for wide receivers is implied team total over 27 and implied team total under 18. You don't get the under 18s very often, and that number is probably going to have to change because as game totals are going up, we're seeing more 50-point games, each year it seems like more than before. That number may need to change. So when we do find that number, it's actually probably really good. But the over 27, and that may need to change too, go up to 28 or 29 someday. But when it's keeping it at 27 just basically means I'd rather a team be implied to score 3 touchdowns or 4 touchdowns than 2, right? Because I want those points. They're going to go to the running backs and they're going to go to the other wide receivers. I want them to land on my guy. And if we scored 8 touchdowns today, odds are everybody got one, right? And that's what's going to help you score more points or at least raise your floor in terms of opportunity to score points. So the way you find that is you scroll over. Thank you. I thought I was going to actually misclick that running backs. Totally. Sort by descending order in the team total section here. Bring all of these big numbers to the top. and they're not that big this week. We have had a lot of 30s in the past. We've got 28, 28, 27. So there are some 27s, right? So anything over Chad Beebe. So when we go over here to the targets, I want to see who my bigs are, right? Who's getting the 10s and the 6s and stuff. So Marquise Brown, Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen's always a good play. Michael Thomas will probably change. That 6 won't stay 6 for long. Emmanuel Sanders, that might go down. This in another week or so. Let's give Michael Thomas 2 weeks or so, and then let's go back to the research lab and look in the trends tool, and let's see how those numbers shift around a little bit if these guys both stay healthy. Let's see how that works. Michael Thomas should be coming up, and I bet Emmanuel Sanders kind of goes down a little bit. But anywho, we're looking up here at the top offense, which is Juju, Deante, Claypool. You're looking at about a three-headed monster. And again, if you saw my video earlier in the week about Research Lab, when it comes down to finding the focal points of these offenses, I mean, sometimes with fantasy points scored or targets and touches and things like that, some offenses are really good at spreading the ball around. It makes them harder to defend. That's what the coach wants to do. We love the offenses that are very, very concentrated, like Russell Wilson to either Metcalf or Lockett. That's it. There's really not anybody else factoring into that offense right now. You go into some of these other offenses. I showed you Philadelphia, and Philadelphia is not a great offense by any means, but they are so concentrated with where those points are going that it almost increases the floor of those bad players to the point they kind of almost become usable. It's really, really weird, and it's something that you definitely need to pay attention to as time goes on, especially as we get more data for the seasons before the season ends. So if I was looking right now, I would say people like Juju, Deante are probably in the mix. Keenan Allen probably in the mix. I don't know in terms of the other guys. Not saying the other guys are bad. You know what I mean? I'm just saying that they're not as secure as somebody in a high implied team total game. Like if you're only implied to get 23.5 points, that doesn't mean you're bad. It just and you shouldn't be played. You might still be one of the best plays on the board. It just means you're not historically going to pop off of my chart. So another thing that I will do in this scenario is I will take this targets per game and I will sort descending order, but then I will take the number filter and do greater than, say, 6 targets. So I'll put in a 5.9, so 6.0 and above gets used, and I'll see who is in that range, right? And then I'll look at the Vegas numbers and I'll see who's implied to score points. So there's your Keenan Allen, a lot of targets implied to score. Doesn't mean Davante Adams is bad, right? It just means that Keenan Allen probably has a little bit more secure floor historically speaking. Historically speaking. We've mentioned Jamison Crowder's been good when he's healthy quite a bit. He gets a ton of freaking targets, and he's always a low team total because he plays for the Jets, right? What does that mean? That means garbage time. That's what these low totals mean. Is they mean these guys are going to suck it up late in the game and garbage. So don't tilt in the third quarter with Jamison Crowder when you say, "Oh, he's only got 4 points. You suck. He's not a good pick." Because he's probably going to beast in that fourth quarter and get you 10 or 12 points right there and then hit value. Okay. Coming down here a little bit more, looking for these higher team guys. There's Deante Johnson again, Juju Schuster again. They're pretty high on just the raw targets per game list. Come down a little bit more. Then I can see Adam Felin is in a good spot this week. Like I said in the running back video, you're going to be deciding probably whether or not you do Cook, Thielen, or Cook or Cousins and Thielen, or in a tournament do all three and then go find value elsewhere. And if that stack happens to go off, though, that should be where a lot of your points are concentrated, or Jefferson, something like that. Down here a little bit lower on this list, other viable plays, Claypool, Marquise Brown, maybe, Jarvis Landry, maybe, Michael Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, Justin Jefferson. There's Justin Jefferson, 6 targets a game. So you might look at these and be more cost considered. 6,700 is a good bit, but this is where fantasy points per dollar in the domination station comes in, and that's what we'll do next. So these would be guys that would be on my list, and you come over here to the red zone section, and you look up here at the top. These guys are monsters in the red zone usually. Jamison Crowder's not, because he doesn't ever get there, right? Because the Jets suck. But Keenan Allen, Davante Adams down here into Ridley and Boyd, those are great. red zone. So on FanDuel, these guys are probably better plays maybe than even DraftKings because of their touchdown equity. They get thrown at in the end zone quite a bit. Juju Schuster and where's uh, where's our buddy? Was it Claypool or was it Deante? Deante, 5 targets versus Juju's 10. So you're getting thrown at twice as often. Now it doesn't mean that on any given Sunday. It just means that over the course of the season, you've had higher touchdown equity with Juju Schuster. Doesn't always work out that way, obviously, in terms of even touchdown, translates into touchdowns. But it certainly does help if you had a sample of 50 or 100 red zone attempts. A guy who had 75 red zone targets would score more touchdowns than a guy who had 25 or 50 even, right? Because the sample size is big enough that the numbers would kind of catch up and the variance would kind of go away. And these are the things that we're always talking about inside DFS Army in terms of how to kind of keep your head correct in these games, because everybody likes to bitch and moan that so and so didn't go off and he was in a smash spot. Well, you know what? No offense, but screw you. You're not entitled to shit. These are players that have their ups and downs just like everybody else. And all that means when people tilt like that, it either means they like tilting because they're just smack talking and having fun. And those guys are great. I can have beer with those guys all day long. Or it means you're a knucklehead and you need to learn because you don't understand luck and you don't understand short-term volatility and you don't understand sample size and you don't understand these things. And when that's the case, then you need to dig in and you need to learn and you need to ask your coaches and you need to understand what the hell's actually going on, because a 16-week sample in the NFL is nothing. 16 weeks in the NFL, that's 16 baseball games. It's 3 weeks. We have a 6-month baseball season to draw samples from. Nobody cares the first 3 weeks. Nobody says, oh, this guy, he's a dud and he's not going to bounce back. And, it could be a great cash game play like a DJ LeMahieu. And people are like, well, nobody's questioning. They're just saying he's off to a slow start. Well, see, like I said, man, when it comes to the NFL, that's an NFL season. Understand what you're looking at. Understand how one relates to the other. Basketball seasons, same way. And the tidbit about basketball is because these guys touch the ball so damned often, which comes back to running backs versus wide receivers and all the stuff that we're rambling about right now. Because they touch the ball so damned often, their range of outcome in fantasy points is much tighter. LeBron James isn't ever going to go out and only score you 18 fantasy points, right? He just doesn't have that low of a floor. So because his range of outcome on, say, a 50-point projection is more like 35 to 65 points, maybe ceilings of 75 and 80, and his floor, yeah, it could be 8 points if he gets hurt, but if he doesn't get hurt, it isn't going to be below 20 points. That's just the nature of basketball. That's why it's so precise. That's why it's so hard to play cash games in basketball. You have to be perfect. You miss one pick in basketball, you're donezo most nights. So really and truly, that leads back to football, which is maybe a little bit more predictable than, say, baseball or hockey. But I mean, in hockey, I get 5 shots on goal in a game, and I had a monster game. That was 5 attempts, and they could have been crappy angles through traffic where the shot gets blocked. Goalie could have made a wicked save, or I could have scored all 5 goals. Who the hell knows? The range of outcomes is insane. And when the range of outcomes is insane in a volatile sport like baseball or hockey or something, your cash lineups can win tournaments, and there is no such thing as a safe play because, like wide receivers and tight ends, they dud so damned often because they don't have the opportunity. That's why your running backs have a higher floor. That's why your basketball players have a higher floor. That's why your quarterbacks have a higher floor. That's why you know where to go in cash games with those positions usually. And when you don't know where to go, you can gamble a little bit with a wide receiver or a tight end because you're not really that wrong. Even if you pick a kind of a subpar play, you're not really that wrong. It's not like making that mistake in the running back column where you get demolished. Hopefully that makes some sense to you guys. I spent extra time on it because I didn't want to try and cram tight end and defense into 5 minutes. But hopefully you understand your mentality, got a little better idea of how to play these games and where to maybe take your mistakes and your chances. So I'll do another video with tight ends and defenses. So let's come back and let's do that. And let's upload this one and put it out to you guys so you guys can at least understand the wide receiver and hear that talk towards the end, because I think it'll help a few of you guys out. See ya.